Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Woodman, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will dive deep into Phase 3 of the Inclusive Leader Continuum, Active. We will focus on developing your point of view on what needs to be challenged in yourself and in your organization, and how to challenge people and systems effectively. This stage talks about you taking action, but the tricky thing about action is that you won't always get instant results. Leaders typically like to take shortcuts and have quick fixes so that they can get a specific result as fast as possible, but action does not always work like that. Even if you are actively trying to drive change, you have to be patient rather than get discouraged. If you get discouraged, it demotivates you from continuing your work. No magic amount of time is spent at each step of the Inclusive Leader Continuum, and this is perhaps never truer than at the active stage. Using your voice and your platform to act effectively with the desired impact is a skill that you need to develop over time. Your personal journey towards becoming a more inclusive leader can span many years and involve difficult work. When you read leadership books, watch leadership videos, or go to leadership workshops, you don't expect to be transformed in a moment into someone who is immediately more skilled in leadership. That is why it is critical to be patient with yourself as you begin to activate. This third stage can feel overwhelming, but exciting too. What should you do first? Where should you activate? With whom and for whom? The way you activate will be unique to you. Because you have a lot of choices, it is perhaps most important to consider where you are most comfortable and energized. At first, you might find it easier to follow someone else's lead. Change cannot happen with a small number of hands doing the majority of the work. After all, doing this goes against cooperation. If you sense somebody must be exhausted from doing a specific task, consider how you can chip in to give them a well-deserved break. As time goes on, you build the energy to take it to the next level. For example, suppose you are a man and you want to make room for a woman because you believe she is overlooked. You could give the woman the floor during discussions and not interrupt them when they are speaking. You could invite the woman to sit at the table during conferences instead of on the sidelines. You could amplify the woman's voices in meetings and on social media if they are not getting the recognition that they deserve. This is just one example, but this can apply to any group of individuals you believe can help empower and uplift to share their voices at the table in any environment you're in. Whether you want to do something small or big is up to you. Over time, as you find your confidence growing in speaking up for others, you will find your actions become more visible and less hidden behind closed doors. Just don't forget you are doing this for your whole community, not solely for personal gain. Let's talk about mentoring and sponsoring. Mentoring has always been a powerful tool for professional development and career advancement, especially when mentors go the extra mile to help mentees. The all-star mentors who put their own professional or social capital on the line for another person are often called sponsors. They advocate for their sponsees and talk them up when they are in the room, and more importantly, when they are not in the room. This kind of support is invaluable for some to get ahead in their career fields and their communities. This is important in political and civic life because mentors can give you guidance in navigating specific components of our political structure, and sponsors can speak highly of you to other community leaders, which could lead to collaboration on community projects and job offers. However, it is important to know that not everyone has a dedicated mentor or sponsor they can go to for support. This leaves some people out of important inner circles and inner workings of a community, which can affect how those people can meet critical leaders in certain fields or understand how to access certain resources. For example, if someone is facing an issue in their community, the obvious answer would be to speak with the decision makers in charge of resolving the issue. But if that person does not have a mentor to guide them through the process and a sponsor to advocate to the decision maker on their behalf, then that person can have a difficult time bringing the issue to the decision maker's attention. Now, when we compare this to someone who has a lot of connections, mentors, and sponsors in their community and to decision makers, they are likely to get the issue resolved quickly. So the main issue we see here is not having enough connections to specific people. Building more intentional mentoring and sponsoring relationships for all colleagues whose identity and circumstances puts them outside the inner workings of a community can have the most impact on improving representation challenges. Sponsorship in particular creates a huge difference in the advancement of underrepresented talent because we are making it front and center in the eyes of decision makers. So you can make an impact in people's lives by being a mentor and or sponsor. After all, you might know enough about the civic landscape and have enough experience with it to guide someone through it. It is up to you to determine who and how many people you want to help out, but any insights you want to provide will be helpful to your mentee. Same thing for your sponsee if you believe that person deserves to be in a specific position in a community. Also, let's say you are already mentoring or sponsoring people. You should examine your cohort to see how similar they are to you and how you want to expand your outreach to people of different backgrounds who might need more assistance with getting more involved in their community. When you do your outreach, let them know you are happy to provide advice and support. Don't assume they would feel comfortable coming to you without this invitation. When you do make these connections and get to know new people, ask them why they want to get more involved in the community, what issues they are passionate about, who they want to meet in the community, how do you all want to work together, etc. If you are part of the same organization, talk about your experiences within the organizations, any advice for navigating it, any improvements you all would like to see in it, etc. A lot of the questions and topics in your conversations will vary depending on people you meet, but these are some things you could start with. When it comes to where mentoring usually occurs, it often occurs in casual conversations or informal social settings after work or on weekends. An inclusive leader considers where a mentee might feel not only more comfortable, but also what time of day feels like the right professional setting for these important conversations. You should do your mentoring in public places, and whatever you do it across the board. The need for safety is a universal one. When you are the one with the power, you have a responsibility to think multiple steps ahead for the comfort of others, regardless of your own identity. Also, becoming a mentor or sponsor is something that great leaders are doing already. Offering guidance and advice to new people of different backgrounds should not be extra work. It comes with being an effective leader. But to be an inclusive leader, you should think differently about how you offer support and to whom. Now, let's proceed to talking about storytelling. Stories are one of the most effective ways to educate and create all-important aha moments that remain in people's minds. When told skillfully, they build a sense of connection between you and others and inspire people into action to bring about change, which is why they are particularly important for inclusive leaders. You may have often found yourself in the audience witnessing expert storytellers or having vulnerable shares by those who felt like they didn't belong. You might remember your biases being interrupted by a surprising twist in someone's story that stopped you in your tracks. That is because effective stories often create cognitive dissonance for the listeners. This is where a personal belief is challenged by another viewpoint, which causes discomfort. For example, this could be a writer who has dyslexia or a CEO who never finished high school. When you can identify the cognitive dissonance in your story, sharing it with others can help them overcome their biases. When you can challenge people's biases by sharing your story, you are taking an important action. Sharing your story around inclusion requires a certain willingness to expose some of the lessons you have learned on your journey, especially if you had to learn them the hard way, as well as your personal aha moments. Comfort with vulnerability is especially critical in showing your true self. It might feel risky or uncomfortable, particularly as you strive to present a strong face of certainty to your community, but showing vulnerability does not, in fact, detract from your capacity to inspire people. Rather, it augments it. After all, there is someone in your audience who can relate to a vulnerability because they went through it too. Remember, no one is perfect, yet leaders try their best to appear flawless, like they always have the answers. Not only is it a lot of work to maintain this image, but it is also unrealistic and inauthentic. Leaders who show some vulnerability relate better with their colleagues and other community members, which can make the leaders come across as more likable and approachable. As you think about how you want to talk about yourself to people, you want to tap into your why. This is so your intended audience can understand the reason for hearing your story. Start with figuring out why you want to be an inclusive leader in the first place. Given that the Inclusive Leader Continuum and all the stages come with a lot of effort and commitment on your part, what in your own journey motivates you to remain committed to progress and to your own growth? To structure your story that will help people understand your purpose, here are some questions you should answer. What occurred? What action was taken? How did you change? What did you do differently? What changed as a result? What did you take from the learning experience? What has been the result over time? How do you know it was important or significant? What ultimate lesson did you take away? What can the audience take from your story? What can be learned or applied in life? What do you hope for yourself and for others? Another thing with storytelling is understanding how people consume stories. To hear more diverse stories, we must seek out, support, and center diverse voices. For example, when you think of industry experts, do they tend to be of a certain gender or ethnicity? In many fields, white men are overrepresented when it comes to publishing books, speaking at conferences, and being interviewed or cited in publications. What message do you think this may be sending to leaders who don't share the same identity as you? The impact of a lack of diverse storytellers is that underrepresented voices do not see themselves at the top and therefore feel their viewpoints are not going to be valued in those circles. As an inclusive leader, you can challenge all of this in concrete ways. For instance, you could cite research and insights from people who are not always just white men. They could be women, people of color, or any other demographic group. Citing them allows you to talk them up and share stories from them, which helps amplify their voices. These are simple ways you can be active about inclusion. Quote more less quoted reliable sources and their wisdom. Indicate that you value their point of view. Another thing you could do is share your own story. Your story is powerful in its own right, but it can't work its magic if you never tell it. When you get people's attention, you get to decide what you want to share, what feels important to voice, and what you believe may help shift others' perceptions or beliefs. An inclusive leader tackles the issue of representational diversity at every opportunity. They show up honestly and transparently and notice who else is in the room and who else's voice may not be heard. They know when to nominate others, when to step aside, and also, given the right circumstances, when to step forward and show leadership courage through storytelling themselves. All of this is up to you as an inclusive leader, but you should be mindful of the environment around you and make inappropriate decisions on what you should do. In conclusion, being an inclusive leader in the active phase means committing to patient, intentional action by using your voice, influence, and relationships to challenge systems, uplift underrepresented voices, mentor and sponsor diverse groups of individuals, and share authentic stories that create change over time, not instant results. As you are learning how to prioritize inclusion, remember to stay open and adjust your approach whenever necessary. Stay focused on moving forward, but don't become impatient if the pace of change is not as fast as you had hoped. As long as you continue to stay focused on your objectives, you will reach the end of the tunnel. In the next video, we will proceed into phase 4 of the Inclusive Leader Continuum, Advocate. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the change maker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.